inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through eyes covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love that.
Hello, y'all. How we doing? Welcome to another vetted live stream. Thank you so much for joining today. I see some stuff going on in the comments. Let me just address this real quick. Chris, you know what? Okay, let's just deal with this now. All right, I see one of our mods, Chris James, telling people that they say anything negative about Lou, he's going to delete them. And I appreciate Chris's sentiment, but it's all good. Okay, people can say things negative about Lou, about me, about anybody. I do believe in freedom of speech, definitely in the comments. Just don't be vile, right? Be respectful about your opinion of them, right? You can show disagreement with them or disappointment in them, but if it's vile comment, yes, we will delete it. But it can be negative. Just don't be disrespectful. That's it. Or disruptive, right? But definitely you can voice your opinion. It's no matter what. But I understand Chris's sentiment completely. Okay. So that is said as well. So anyway, yes, guys, I want you guys to give your opinions. And look, we're already starting off. The hearing is creating a lot of hoopla. Right? It's creating a lot of energy, a lot of discussion, a lot of, I don't know what the right word is, back and forth, right? As far as that goes. And I get it. Some people are pissed off about the hearing. Some people are excited about the hearing and everything in between, right? And I get it. Tensions are high for some people. I totally understand. I want you to have a place to voice your opinions, but at the same time, we still need to be respectful. Again, we can't lose our humanity in search for our humanity, right? You guys see that, where is it? That poster behind me? We're all familiar with that poster, right? I want to believe. I'd like to add something to it. I don't want to be deceived, right? I want to believe, but I don't want to be deceived, right? And I get it. Some people felt deceived by yesterday's hearing. I had my own initial reactions to the hearing when it happened, right? Initially. I think we all did. Just our raw gut reaction to what happened, right? But also have to be honest with myself, right? And say, you know what? Let me let the emotions lie down a little bit, right? Let me sleep on it, if you will, right? And think about this hearing from a lot of different perspectives, because that's something I'm pretty good at, which is trying to see things from many different angles and perspectives and viewpoints and try to understand it all, right? So with that said, I'll get into it here in a minute. And I'm still going to need time with it, if I'm honest. Right. I'm still going to need time for this. But let's start off with some interesting news before we jump into the review of yesterday's hearing, because there was some breaking news, and I actually have an exclusive breaking news from Vetted right now. I'll get into it in a second. Actually, what am I saying? Right now, let's get into it. I'll tell you what it is in just a moment. Remember, I don't do anonymous sources, so my source will be revealed, and they are happy to do that. And it's about this. This is not the source, but it's about this. So Dean Johnson posted this. Now, if you remember, I made a video about this happening a week ago or something. And it's been confirmed, right? It's happening November 19th, just like I said, just like I reported. And basically, right here, it says Senate Armed Services Committee posts notice of closed hearing followed by open hearing, November 19th, 2024, to examine the activities of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office and Emerging Threats and Capabilities Subcommittee. Senator Kristen Gillibrand, Democrat from New York, chair. Right. And the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office is otherwise known as what? Say it with me. AARO. That's right. AARO. So basically, it's sort of like a year in review, right? Every year they meet to go over AARO, what they've done, what they're going to do, right? The money we're giving you, is this valid? That sort of thing, right? Accountability. And let's take a closer look at this. So meeting scheduled November 19th, 3:15 p.m., Committee on Armed Services, Subcommittee on Emerging Threats and Capabilities, to hold closed hearings to examine the activities of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, to be immediately followed by an open session in SDG 50. Right here, you can see what exactly they're going to be doing, right? So I'll put links in the description. You can just go to my Twitter and you'll see that I reposted that. But let's get to my breaking news about this. So, okay, so next week, November 19th, that is happening, right? With Gillibrand, AARO. Let's see here. Boom. I got a text message from Ron James, filmmaker Ron James. All right. And he's the one also that told me about the hearing with Gillibrand that was going to happen last week. And I reported on it, revealed who, told me that. He told me that. And I've been in contact with him, text messaging him while he's in DC, just a little bit. He's been sending me pictures and things like that, talking about, he was there yesterday for the hearing, right? And also talking about this meeting with Gillibrand, right? So this is something that's happening, right? He's on his way to meet with Tim Burchett. So that was this morning. He did meet with Tim Burchett. I have a photo of that. And then he says, I have to go to an undisclosed location to gather samples from UAP material, which I'm dropping off at Kirsten Gillibrand's office the morning of the hearing. So there you go. Kirsten Gillibrand will be receiving UAP material before this hearing, right, on the 19th. Could that impact? Is it going to come with results? Is he bringing it straight to so that they can do analysis on it and they can present it to AARO? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm all for this kind of stuff, right? Real evidence. Could be bunk, could be nothing, could be rocks, okay? Like you find in your driveway or in your garden bed or wherever. But I don't care. Actual physical evidence. Let's go. Let's get it to them, right? We have confirmation that they are receiving this type of material. If they haven't before, they are now. What are they going to do with it? That's the question. Will they analyze it and then release that analysis, right? I think this is a great step in the right direction. Right. If we haven't been doing this before, I don't know if we have. I don't know if they've received materials or anything ever before, but now I can confirm they will be. Right. And thanks to Ron James, who's going to do this. Right. And he said he's making a video about it. And so you'll learn more about it that way. So look, yeah, I'm excited about that. What do you want me to say? I am. Now, here's Ron James with Danny Sheehan yesterday. I've got a clip of them. We're going to get into the UAP hearing, right, from yesterday, November 13th, in the House. And they did an event afterwards with New Paradigm Institute and MUFON. They did this like after hearing event, I guess, right, and spoke. And actually some things that Danny Sheehan said in that presentation, about 45 minutes long, which I'm going to share here in just a moment. something he said was quite fascinating, to be honest with you, and it really stuck with me. So I want to share it. So shout out to Danny for that. Shout out to Ron. Bob Salas and Ron James. He potentially is going to be testifying at some point, I hope, because his story about, being a nuclear warhead key operator, if that's the right term. I don't know what the right term is. Missile silo infantryman number one. I don't know whatever the term is. He was in charge of some nukes, y'all. That's not, that's not to be taken lightly, for sure. So much respect to him. And he's got a fascinating story about UFOs interacting with some of these nukes and disabling them, right? And there's more than one story. Familiar with Robert Hastings' book. Here's the gang here: Bob Salas, Rob James, Danny Sheehan, Steve Bassett, James Fox. So there you go. So, they're there at the hearing, right, yesterday. And this is the event. I'm going to be showing video from this event right here that they held outside. Here he is with Lou Elizondo. Hey, man, look. Personal stuff aside, Lou looks good. Lou looks good there, man. James Fox, everyone looks happy. Leslie Kean, right? Representative Burleson, Matthew Pines. That's interesting. And there's the meeting this morning with Tim Burchett. So, like I said, thanks to Ron James for providing that to me and for giving me that scoop. I guess it's a scoop. I don't know. Regardless, scoop or not, if someone else reported on it, I'd be reporting. Regardless, the fact that it's happening is what I'm excited about, right? So again, props to Ron James for doing something, right? Hey, I'm going to go get somebody. I'm going to go get some things that people are saying are UAP material, and I'm going to bring it to you. What? That's literally what we need. So I'm happy for that. What is the UAP material from? I have no idea. I don't know what event, what thing. I don't know any of those details. But I'm sure that will be revealed soon enough. And to be fair, I didn't even ask because I didn't want to then be told something, don't share this. Okay, I don't want to know. So I get it. All right. So look, let's get into the review of this hearing. All right. And break this down. I've got a lot of stuff to show today. We're even going to jump into the Immaculate Constellation documents that were released officially. Okay. The entire report. I'm super excited about that got released, and we are going to jump into that. I've got several different clips of reactions to the hearing yesterday. So we're just going to kind of dive in. Again, I know everyone has these raw emotions from yesterday, and you could be very well excited, right? Or not. I'm going to try to cover all the different perspectives here, right, of what people could be feeling. I'm going to really try to dig deep of what, positives from it, no matter what, right? And maybe what we can be hopeful for moving forward, right? But let's get to this one super chat before I jump in. It says, Monkey Boy, I feel so let down by yesterday's hearing. I honestly feel like taking a step back from this whole subject. And Monkey Boy's, he's not alone, man. Again, a lot of people feel that way, and I get it. But I'm going to try to soften the blow. All right? I'm going to try to soften the blow today, y'all. I'm going to give y'all a reason to believe again. Let's go. I sound like, what am I, Disney movie character here? And then I break into song. Believe. All right. Look, we need to laugh too, y'all. We're going to laugh today too, right? All right. So look, let's jump into a hang on a second. Let's come back to that. All right, so I'm going to share a clip of Nancy Mace, okay, who headed yesterday's hearing, all right, on this, right, okay, and get her reaction after the hearing, right? What did she say afterwards? So let's take a look at this clip. She went on MSNBC. Okay. And let's go from there, y'all.
And joining me now is the chairwoman who made today happen, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Congresswoman, thank you for being with us. Those of us who've been following this very closely have been hearing whispers of the words Immaculate Constellation for a few months now. You went out and put it straight on the record. Why did you think that was important?
Well, it's important that if the Pentagon or other federal agencies hiding these programs that they deny from the American public, and yet we learn recently that it actually does exist, the American people ought to know the truth and the facts. There's so much that we have overclassified. You can't talk about the date of some of the alleged UAP imagery, for example. Some of the witnesses couldn't even describe what they've seen because of the way things have been overclassified. You can't talk about the budget for some of these programs because that's classified. We overclassify everything into what end? Does it really make America safer? I don't think so. And the American people deserve to know the truth.
It must have been very frustrating for you sitting up there and not being able to get a lot of those straight answers. Was for people that were watching it too. And then you posted this very mysterious report for the public to see with alleged details about Immaculate Constellation. What is in here is wild. I mean, and I'm paraphrasing, but reports of F-22s getting like boxed in by flying orbs that they couldn't shake. There were satellite images or satellite image of a football field sized flying saucer hiding in clouds seen from this satellite looking down. Have you seen any of this footage or these images?
I have not seen those images or footage, but of course we're going to want to go digging for it in a skiff right after this. But the question I asked Michael Schellenberger, the journalist who was there testifying today, was when he wrote this report about the Immaculate Constellation, did he have more than one source? And the type of sourcing he used, he had multiple sources, they had clearances, they were very credible individuals, and that's really important detail when you're bringing forth this kind of information.
Absolutely. And Congresswoman, the testimony we heard today, I mean, it was suggesting that around the time that Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon helped get those black and white videos out in 2017, that's when this like shadow program was spun up to kind of vacuum up all the data in a way that the public would not know. The allegation, if I understand it correctly, was that it was done out of the executive branch, which would have been President Trump at the time. The president right now, or the president-elect seems to be appointing some pretty heavy hitters that have been demanding UAP transparency to his cabinet, like Rubio, Ratcliffe. What do you think we're going to see next year when Trump takes office on this?
I hope that we'll have the most transparent and accountable administration in U.S. history, not just for UAPs, but across the board with every single federal agency, because the American people overwhelmingly voted for the truth and voted for transformational changes within the federal government. And that should be one of them. Transparency should be a part of that. We had great witnesses say, including the Admiral Gallaudet, who said that, emails were deleted when they started talking about the UAPs that were witnessed on a ship when they were out and deployed at sea. So we learned a lot of information. We learned information that the government denies. They say there is no there. These things don't exist. But yet we learned today that there are federal employees and individuals injured by crashed craft retrieval programs and being paid by the government and compensated. So you can't tell me it doesn't exist, and yet you have people who've been harmed by retrieving craft and are being paid by the government for those injuries. So it doesn't add up, and we have a lot more to investigate. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, fingers crossed we'll get some solid answers. Last question really fast. I mean, we saw bipartisan curiosity here. Do you think that's going to continue?
Oh, I hope it does. And UAPs is a place where both Democrats and Republicans alike have come together to demand transparency, to demand government accountability. The other thing that we've been doing too is we've been working together to protect whistleblowers. There are people that have come forward since the last hearing. There will be more people that come forward, I hope, after this hearing. And we're doing our best to protect those individuals, Democrat and Republican alike.
Congresswoman, we can't thank you enough for your time on all of this. Thank you.
So there you go. There's Nancy Mace. She clearly seems very optimistic, right, about this entire thing, right? And a lot of people were online, right? There's many facets to this, right? Are people excited about this in this way because it's been 16 months since the last hearing? So it feels fresh and new. If this hearing would have happened 2 weeks after the hearing with David Grush, would people still feel the same way? In some ways, yes, right? I think at bare minimum, you can argue that this creates more conversation about the topic, right? At bare minimum, that is a net positive, right? I said that yesterday. I still agree with that. right? At the end of the day, it's what actions take place because of this that really matter, in my opinion, right? We can think what we want all day about the hearing. It sucked. It was best effing thing I ever saw in my life, right? Whatever end of the spectrum you're on or along that spectrum, in my opinion, all that matters is what actions take place after this hearing and because of this hearing, right? That's all that matters to me, right? And seeing things like what Ron James is going to do, take UAP material, take it to them. Here you go. Yes, let's show them evidence. Let them see evidence, share the evidence, because eventually we're going to have to get to that point, right? It's great to make all these claims, and the bigger this bubble grows, people are going to be, okay, we've heard the claims. We've heard the claim. Great, great. More stories, more people. Okay, great, great, great. Where's the evidence to back up the claims? All right. We still need that. We can't move forward without that. And we can't stop asking for that. All right. Yes, it's great that people came, put their story on the record, even if they had already said it before publicly, wrote it in a book, whatever it was. Yes, you can argue that, right? I understand that argument. They went, they put it on the record. Great. I think the issue is that we have these hearings not very often, that's why it becomes like, wow, let's get the most out of this thing, right? It barely happens, right? If these things happen more often, I think there would be less scrutiny on what is said and what, who's there, right? That sort of thing. So I understand that sentiment as well, right? If we're looking at it from the highest point possible, looking down, forest through the trees, the average person who doesn't know anything about this topic could become interested by the topic from this point, right? But then the question becomes, if they dive in further, what do they find, right? More stories, more then they're going to say the same thing anyone said, right? Where's the evidence, right? So again, as the bubble grows, we're going to need to see people are going to need to see some of this evidence. But again, forest through the trees, yes. The normal person, normies as they call it, right? I get it, right? It wasn't necessarily for us, and it maybe not have been for the public at all, right? Was this hearing for Congress members to act, right? And I get that too, right? I totally get that too. Again, what action takes place after this? That's what really matters. And I do look forward to the new administration coming in, if that's what they're claiming to do, and seeing what they can do with this. Absolutely, 100%. I'm all in, and I'm going to give them a chance. We have to. We got to be positive and hopeful about that aspect of it. All right, so let me play another clip real quick. Let me find it. Yeah, this is it. Now, this is from Burleson, Representative Eric Burleson, who asked some great questions yesterday, but he's going to make some great points here that I agree with. Let's take a listen.
Joining me now, I have Republican Congressman from Missouri, Eric Burleson, who sits on the committee that heard yesterday's hearing. Congressman, good morning to you from the halls of Congress. Thanks for hopping on with me.
Good morning.
So I think the general public was really going into yesterday saying, okay, come on, give us something to work with here. At the end of that hearing, did you walk away with anything kind of new to chew on to propel this investigation forward?
I think that some of the reports are underscoring things that we've seen before. So I don't know that you could say that we've learned anything that we haven't been told before. But what I will say is that we continue to see a steady stream of very reputable individuals coming out of the Pentagon and blowing a whistle and saying very consistent things. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that is really the remarkable story here. I said, I'm from Missouri. I'm from the Show Me State. I still want to see before I'm going to believe. And I want to see. And so I think that where Lou and some of these others have the value they bring forward is that I think that we can create a strategy, and hopefully with the new Trump administration, with the new speaker coming in, that we might have an opportunity for disclosure.
Yeah, a lot of people wanting to see more evidence here. I wanted to play a bit of sound for you, sir, because earlier on the show, I spoke to Congressman Tim Burchett, and here's what he says is the answer to all of the hush-hush about UFOs.
Oh, I always say dadgummit after these miserable hearings. They're bogus. What we need is somebody in the executive office to come forth with this stuff. And I think Trump is the guy. He's tired of it. This is part of the D.C. sewer. These secrets they keep, it's for power, it's for control.
Yeah, Congressman, I will say I called him out for calling it bogus. I was kind of taken aback by that because he's kind of been the leader of wanting more transparency. Do you agree with Burchett's take there that these hearings are a waste of time and a waste of money?
I think that anytime that we understand that there's a lot of money being spent and being wasted, and we find out that there are agencies within the federal government that are lying or trying to hide information from Congress, I think it's an appropriate measure. And I think we have a responsibility to conduct oversight and get to the bottom of those questions. So I do think that it's necessary. I share the frustration that Tim has, which is that we often get into these hearings and people will say, I can only say that to you in a SCIF or in a secure setting. But I think that at least we're able to continue to have the discussion, move the ball forward, keep this topic fresh in people's minds. And I think the more that we talk about it, the more there's a likelihood that a President Trump or someone is going to be pushed for release of the information.
And maybe pull back the curtains on this story a bit further. Lastly, just about 30 seconds left with you, Congressman. You talk about keeping it fresh on people's mind. Do you worry that interest in this story is waning, for the public, when every time you have this hearing, there's nothing major that comes from it, no evidence that's really brought forward? Do you worry about that and the public losing interest in the story?
I don't, because I think that the interest is only accelerating. I think that more and more people are paying attention and are intrigued. And I think that as we have these hearings, more and more credible whistleblowers are coming forward. And I think that that adds value and legitimacy to the discussion.
All right. We will see when the next one is held. Congressman Eric Burleson, thank you so much for.
So he said some things that I find interesting, right? And I agree, right? I agree with what he said there. And it's kind of interesting what Tim Burchett said, right? These are bogus. These are right? Because people just say, I can't talk about that, right? I can't say that. And yeah, I get it, right? Because again, really the Congress people's reaction to this could be the most important. For being, again, they're the ones that have to act on this, right? Us over here who are interested in this topic, we'll keep watching documentaries, listen to podcasts here. Even if we say, I'm out, I see that comment every day somewhere multiple times, right? Every video I make every day, someone comments, I've had enough, I'm out. And then they're back the next day, right? Because at the end of the day, this thing pulls you back in no matter what. Right. And I get it. Same thing happens to me. I'm up and down sometimes. Right. So, but again, the truth of the matter is, what actions does Congress take? Right. What actions does Congress take after this hearing? That's what matters most, and what they feel about the hearing. And Tim Burchett saying it's bogus is has nothing to do against the witnesses coming forward or anything. It's more just their arms are tied right behind their back. And at least according to them, right? And they can only say so much, right? So I think that's what he means, right? Like, where are we getting with this? I can't talk about this. I can't talk about a full hearing I can't really discuss that. And I've got more on that from Danny Sheehan that I want to get into. So bear with me, but I want to get just a few more reactions to the hearing from other people so we can get a good overview, right, of generally how this is being taken by this. Now, let's hear from a couple of the witnesses, right, who were at this hearing and testified. What do they think how do they think this went? Let's hear from Michael Schellenberger. All right, who was the journalist who testified about Immaculate Constellation. Again, we're going to get into that whole document, so stay with me there. We've got some very interesting things about that, to be honest with you. All right, let's play this.
And intelligence community are sitting on a huge amount of visual and other information, still photos, video photos, other sensor information, and they have for a very long time. And it's not those fuzzy photos and videos that we've been given. There's very clear
high res,
images, high resolution.
How many visuals, graphics, videos, photos?
I mean, I've been told hundreds, maybe thousands.
All right, Michael Schellenberger joins me now. Great to have you here. Just on what you were just saying in your testimony, have you actually seen these high-res images of these UFOs, or have you just been told they exist?
No, I have not seen anything other than what's been released before and some of the things that you showed. But I have spoken, it's not just to a single source, but multiple sources that say that these databases exist. And as the report that was released today by Congresswoman Nancy Mace, the chairwoman of the committee, that report actually links those images, both the still images and the video images, with some of the psychological and physical effects of different shaped UAPs. I think that's one of the most interesting things that came out of the hearing.
Which was what? The different shapes?
Well, yeah, and the relation, the sort of analysis that connects different UAP shapes to different experiences that people report in having contact with them. So you're seeing really the marriage. The idea here is that the Immaculate Constellation, which is an unacknowledged special access program, actually has the analysis that combines both the human experiences but also the physical characteristics of these craft or these UAP.
So we just heard Lou Elizondo, when questioned, say under oath, say, yes, there's a program that exists for a secret program that exists. And yes, they have managed to get crashed aircraft and take the remains of that aircraft to study. When we first heard David Grush tell here on News Nation, he did it for the first time, say that this program existed, everybody thought he was crazy. And, then slowly more people, they keep coming up with the same story, the same reporting, something you yourself say you have also confirmed. And yet the Pentagon just stands there and says it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think it's also, there's one concern, which is a legitimate concern, which is that there may be circular reporting here where, in other words, you might be getting from one source, you might think you have a second source, but if that second source gets it from the same first source, I'm confident that that did not happen in my reporting on Immaculate Constellation. I have multiple sources and also sources that came forward after my report. I also reported on a pretty stunning description of orbs, one orb coming out of the ocean about 20 miles off the coast of Kuwait, being joined by another orb, high definition video shot from a helicopter, not any sort of top secret technology filming that. So I just think there's a lot of people that have come forward now at this point that this is not circular reporting. This is not just folklore. The Pentagon is clearly covering something up. I mean, you don't even need this report. I mean, both President Trump and former President Barack Obama have both stated that they've seen information that's not been released. And I just think the Pentagon is treating us like children. It's a very paternalistic attitude. They just need to release the information, obviously redact stuff to make sure that nothing gets out to our enemies, but we're long overdue for this sort of disclosure and transparency to occur.
Michael, what do you think, based on all of your investigative reporting, the Pentagon is doing with this reverse engineering program? Are they looking at some sort of weapon, at some sort of defense system?
I mean, that's my understanding of it, is that it's, that it would make sense that the military, if it's capturing some sort of material or some sort of craft, they'd be looking to, turn it into some sort of weapon or, whether or defensive. I honestly don't know. And I also don't know what UAPs are, and I don't claim to know. But I'm very confident that the Pentagon and the intelligence community are hiding a lot of information about UAPs. I think that's very well established at this point. I mean, we have a lot of evidence and a lot of people, including heads of state, former heads of the United States, that have said that. Former intelligence community officials, both on the right and the left. I mean, this was an incredibly bipartisan group today. So I think that there's been a lot of questions about like what are UAPs, and that's fascinating, and of course that's important. But it's well established now that the military and the intelligence community are hiding a significant amount of data that they have an obligation under the Constitution to report to Congress. And I think they also have a moral obligation, and perhaps a legal one as well, to make that information available to the public.
Well, thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find news.
Joinnn.com. Yes. So Schellenberger, interesting. I think the biggest thing to come from Schellenberger's testimony is not anything he particularly said. Although I do very much appreciate him giving John Greenwald the Black Vault a shout out and showing his work and the redactions and the cover up. We need better transparency. Like, I think anyone can agree on that. Whether you believe this is aliens or not, we need more transparency. And that's something we can all agree on, I hope. But the biggest thing to come out is that report, that actual full whistleblower report getting released. And we'll get to that report in a bit, I promise. I know everybody wants to, we'll get there. All right. So real quick, let me play, I've just got a few more clips, but let me play one clip of what George Knapp had to say about the hearing. Did y'all hear what George Knapp had to say? Because at last year's, he was there, right? But this year, he was not. And he did a report on his Las Vegas news channel that he's a part of, that he's been a part of for decades. And let's see what George Knapp had to say.
Jerry, Congress heard some pretty astounding testimony today about an alleged cover-up of UFO evidence and programs. In fact, 4 witnesses testified under oath about some pretty troubling encounters between the U.S. military and advanced craft of unknown origin.
The witnesses allege that the government personnel have been threatened and intimidated in order to maintain a decades-long cover-up. 8 News Now Chief Investigator George Knapp live in studio with more. George, on today's hearing.
It's one thing to hear these kind of allegations in a cable TV show or on a podcast. It's quite another to hear it from credible people, some of whom worked on the inside and who told their stories under oath. Witnesses say threats have been made to their reputations, their careers, even their lives.
UAP are real. Advanced technologies not made by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe.
By now, Lou Elizondo is a familiar face to anyone interested in the UFO mystery. He first went public in 2017 to tell what he knows about government investigations of UFOs. But there have always been limits to what he can say in public, in particular about what he can say about UFO crash retrievals and attempts to reverse engineer the craft, the same sort of allegations that thrust Nevada's Area 51 into the public's consciousness back in the late 80s. In sworn testimony, Elizondo told Congress the U.S. and other nations have stashed away the goods.
Furthermore, the U.S. is in possession of UAP technologies, as are some of our adversaries.
But the witnesses agreed there's been an ongoing effort to cover up these programs, hide them from Congress and the public. Retired Rear Admiral Dr. Tim Gallaudet was at sea with the USS Roosevelt Carrier Group in 2015 when Navy aviators encountered unknown objects, 2 of which are now well known, the gimbal and the go fast. Gallaudet and other Navy brass received urgent communications asking what these things were because they were deemed a threat to aviation safety. The next day, all of those communications were scrubbed, gone. The former admiral says he's also aware of objects with incredible capabilities being detected underwater.
Nothing that we know of and technology-wise could replicate that.
Each of the witnesses shared stories of attempted intimidation of witnesses, especially whistleblowers. Journalist Michael Schellenberger told the committee about information he received from a whistleblower, an alleged special access program dubbed Immaculate Constellation, which scoops up all UFO and UAP photos, videos, and data from classified platforms and sensors. A document shared with the committee described one disturbing encounter.
One involved orbs surrounding and forcing an F-22 out of its patrol area. In another incident, the crew of a Navy aircraft carrier watched a small orange-red sphere rapidly descend from a high altitude of 100 to 200 yards directly above the flight deck of the CVN, or aircraft carrier.
The witnesses describe what they say as an active, ongoing, and heavy-handed effort to intimidate potential whistleblowers, to deny documents and records as requested by the public and by Congress, and to spread disinformation that undermines the credibility of UFO cases and investigations. Chairperson Nancy Mace says there will be more hearings, and they hope to hear directly from people who say they have worked on crash saucers and reverse engineering programs. We'll keep you tuned.
Well, there you go, y'all. That's from George Knapp there, giving us a nice comprehensive 3-minute clip there of what went down in these hearings. So thank you to George Knapp for that. Wish he could have been there. He kind of deserved to be there, right? With the work he's put in. They couldn't give him off for that. You know what I mean? All right, one thing in particular that I just can't stop thinking about this, and maybe I'm overthinking it. All right, you tell me. I don't know. But there's one part in the hearing where Nancy Mace asked Lou Elizondo, like, yes or no, right? Answer yes or no. And I'm paraphrasing here, but basically ask him, mentions the word aliens. Right. Like, do we have reverse, do we have downcraft or something? Yes. Okay. Do we, at least we're trying to reverse this alien, so whatever the alien, and he just says yes. There's no definition to the word alien. You don't define it. Luis Elizondo just says yes to it. Aliens? What do we mean by that? I know what we mean by it, but that's just like out in the ether. What they don't define alien. I just can't get that out of my head. Right. I can't get that out of my head. And maybe I'm overthinking that. It's totally possible. I just wanted to say that before I forgot. You know what? I should probably find that clip. Let's find that clip so that I'm not misunderstanding that. Hang on. Okay. So you guys can tell me if I'm overthinking this. I think it's at the beginning. So let's go to the beginning. Let's bring it up on the screen. Okay. Up on the screen? Yes. All right.
Up to that promise. And with that, I yield back.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moskowitz. And I would now, committee staff asked me to go ahead and I will do it, to enter into the congressional record this 12-page document that Michael Schellenberger brought today that describes the Immaculate Constellation government program. So we will do that now. Every member of the program called Intelligence List. So next, first witness is retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet, who retired from the U.S. Our second author of a recent bestseller book about an author as Immaculate Constellation is Mr. Independent Study. The witnesses will please stand and raise your right hands.
It's not here, not
This
here.
is where it gets real. Do you solemnly swear to affirm
this testimony by praising the
Saying
Recognize witnesses. So I would just ask if it's yes or no to please just tell me yes or no.
All right,
If
all
it
right,
requires
here we go.
more than that, be very succinct because I would like to go down the line and ask as many questions as possible. So for the Admiral this morning first, former DOD official Chris Mellon reached out to you about satellite imagery from 2017 that
Share with you the details.
Okay, so who has the imagery? Just a description.
The disk shape.
All right. Okay, Mr. Elizondo, you state in your testimony that, quote, advanced technologies not by our government or any other government are monitoring sensitive military installations around the globe, end quote. If these technologies are not made by any government, who's making them? Private companies, or are you implying they are crafted by a non-human intelligence?
Well, ma'am, that's precisely why we're here. The problem is that temporally speaking, over decades, not just the last 10 years, to put this in perspective,
Are these private companies you're implying, or is this non-human intelligence?
it may be both.
Okay.
When it comes to Blue Force Technologies, I would not be able to discuss.
Okay.
them,
Are you read into secret UAP crash retrieval programs?
We would have to have a conversation in a closed session, ma'am. I signed documentation 3 years ago that restricts my ability to discuss specifically crash retrievals. I submitted for my book through the DOPSR process, which took a year for it to be reviewed. And what is in the book is what I was told I'm allowed to talk about.
Some people are saying that that is his admission of being in a crash retrieval. But as Lou specifically states, he just can't talk about crash retrievals in general. But does it imply more? I don't know. But that's not the clip I'm looking for. We're going to find this.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Were they designed to identify and reverse engineer alien craft? Yes or no?
Yes.
Does the
There it was. Alien craft. He says yes. There's no definition to alien. I get it. It's like, no, Patrick, we mean non-human. Okay, but that needs to be stated. This is Congress. This is on the record. Like the follow-up question to that was define alien. In my opinion. But again, it's in the moment. I don't know. Is it just that we all understand what she means when she says alien? Because there could be a way to admit that and then be like, that's not what I meant by alien. I meant something else. I don't know. Again, I could be overthinking it. But either way, Nancy Mace did a great job. And it would be interesting if they do have a conversation, Nancy Mace and Lou Elizondo, about the crash retrieval. Was Luis Elizondo in a crash retrieval program? That's interesting for sure. That would change things a lot if he could prove that. I'm not going to lie. All right. So I'm glad I got that out of the way and just said that. And again, I could be overthinking it, but I think that's an interesting distinction, right? To just say alien. Yes. Well, wait a second. All right. I've made my point there. All right. I think, before I get to this clip about Danny Sheehan, which I'm most interested in, I think it's proper thing to do here and to hear from Luis Elizondo of what he thought, how the hearing went afterwards, right? So this is an interview with Luis Elizondo post-hearing, which, by the way, is going to be the name of my new band, post-hearing. All right, here we go.
Former military intelligence and counterintelligence officer Luis Elizondo joins us now. Thank you for making your witness today. I want the audience to know you're also author of Imminent: Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. Luis, thank you for being with us.
Chris, thank you so much for having me.
So were you worried about what you were going to say today?
Yeah, absolutely. But I got to say, Chris, I think this was really a historic day for both Congress and for the American people. I think it was a win-win. This is now the second hearing on this topic that's been open to the public. And hopefully the public is now getting an understanding of how long our government has actually been involved in this topic, despite decades of denial.
So, look, the pushback is they're no little green men. They don't have a spaceship from outside our solar system. All of these types of videos that I'm showing right now can be explained. Well, then what are they finding? This is what you did. And you're risking your reputation to come forward and speak what you say is the truth. So what do they know?
Well, Chris, first of all, I'm risking more than my reputation. I'm risking my security clearance and my ability to even earn a living. So I think it's important to know that we have absolutely been able to confirm the existence of some sort of technology that has the ability to operate with anonymity within our controlled U.S. airspace, operate over our sensitive military installations, and possibly interfere with our nuclear equities. Now, if that's not a national security concern, I don't know what is.
Now, that's why they say, so, okay, yeah, it's some other country or it's some other concern or corporate concern on Earth, and that's why they don't tell us, because it's too dangerous. What do you say to that?
So, Chris, let's look at this from a temporal perspective. Okay, we've been dealing with this for decades, and documents now have been submitted to Congress that prove without a shadow of a doubt, since the early 1950s, we've been dealing with this issue. And when I say dealing with this issue, I'm talking about objects that still to this day can operate beyond any type of performance characteristics of our modern aircraft. So I would say, look, if one were to say, well, maybe this is Russia or China today, okay, but that doesn't explain the 1950s and 60s where these aircraft were captured on radar doing 10,000, 13,000 miles an hour in a low Earth atmosphere. Okay, what we have in comparison pales. For example, the Lockheed YF-12A SR-71 can do about 3,200 miles an hour at an unclassified level, which is pretty fast. And when it wants to take a right-hand turn, it takes roughly half the state of Ohio to do that. And what we are seeing are objects that are doing 10,000, 13,000 miles an hour and are able to execute an immediate right-angle turn, do 180 degrees, pop in and out of our atmosphere, and even underwater. So where were we in the 1950s? Well, we had barely broken the sound barrier and hadn't even made it into space. What other near-peer country even existed at that point that to this day can perform like that? The answer is we can't. And if there was a country that could do that, Chris, this would be the greatest intelligence failure this country has ever faced, even eclipsing that of 9/11 by an order of magnitude, because despite the billions of dollars we pour in investment into our intelligence community, not a single thread of intelligence over the last 7 decades has given us an indication that some adversary has developed this technology in secret and been able to deploy it effectively.
And if they had it 7 decades ago, what would they be doing with it today? And nobody is. And that raises questions also. Mr. Elizondo, anytime you want to talk, anytime there are developments or there should be and there have not.
All right, so that's basically the end of it there. The only thing I would say is what Elizondo is describing sounds great, but why is there not one video that shows any of that? None of the videos that have been released or photos or anything show anything, any of the observables that he's saying, right? It went this fast and did a 180. Nothing shows that, right? Even the FLIR go fast and gimbal videos show nothing abnormal in that sense. People's stories do. And maybe that's what this Immaculate Constellation is about, right? That they do have data, videos, photos, radar, whatever, sensor data that shows those things. Because right now it's just people saying that these things do those things, right? But no proof of it that we've seen anyway, right? And clearly Congress hasn't seen any of this. Otherwise, they would be acting on it, right? They have clearly not seen anything that, again, shows these capabilities. So that's all I'm saying. It's like, okay, great. A ship that can do these, that fly this fast, and yeah, okay. But where is that? Where does that show that? All right. Let's move on. I want to show y'all a clip from Danny Sheehan at this event that he did with Ron James, okay, after the hearing. Right, this took place right outside the Rayburn building, across the street. They gathered, threw on a camera, some mics, And Danny Sheehan spoke. And something Danny said here that I'm going to play, I found quite interesting. Let's listen.
And you heard half a dozen of the members of Congress asking kind of more probing questions. If you were allowed to get into a skiff with me, could you tell me more about the bodies? And he said, I'm not authorized to tell you that. What he's suggesting is that even in a skiff, he's not authorized to tell them this, because the clearances that they have as members of Congress are not the kind of clearances that they need to have in order to be told about this program, because this program has gained an additional classification. And that's what you were getting the signals about. You could hear that. There were at least 8 or 10 times, if you were counting like I was counting, there were 8 or 10 times when it was said, I can't talk about this in public, okay? But when you saw them pressed with the question is, if we got you into a skiff, could you tell me the following? At which point the language changed into, I'm not authorized to tell you that, or that would not be up to me to tell you that information. So it means that there's a source of authority still above the members of Congress and their clearances, which is still being deemed to be operational on the part of the witnesses that were actually under these security oaths.
And who are those people?
You could tell that Lou was, the admiral was. They were still. The question as to who those people are above them is one of the questions that Congress has to find out about. And you saw Congressman Burleson kept asking him, kept saying, well, who is that? Who is that is authorized to tell us that? And Lou said, I'm not authorized to tell you that, okay? And it isn't that if I got into a skiff, I could tell you, which was a whole other category of information, but there's a whole other category of information that even if you get them into a skiff, they're not going to tell Congress, okay? So that's the status where we are right now. It's farther ahead than we were a year ago. So we're making progress step by step, but you'll see that this wall is still up here. But very importantly, there are a major growing number of members of Congress, not only on the House side that you saw today, but over on the Senate side that are saying, at least we need to know. And you saw, even with Congressman Ogle, that came at the very end, who was the super hawk. I think you can notice that he's here to protect the national security of the United States. He said, whatever our positions are, this Congress needs to know. Okay, you got to remember now, that's the purpose of the UFO Controlled Disclosure Act, is to get Congress informed. And then it's going to have to be Congress and others who decide how much the public is going to be told. So it's important for the population to know that what we're driving at right now is getting Congress informed. They're our elected representatives. They need to know. They're being iced out. And as you heard one of the other congresspersons say, that I believe that that's criminal. You heard that it's criminal for them to be refusing to brief Congress on this program. All right. So there are nuggets like that you pick up if you listen closely to what really happened here today. And you heard Congresswoman May say over and over again, this is clear that we need to have more hearings. We need to have more hearings to get more information, right? And the key to understand is that when President-elect Trump is inaugurated on January 20th and becomes president, he has publicly stated repeatedly that he will immediately release all of the information about UFOs that the government has, okay? Now, I wouldn't bet on that, but the bottom line is he is saying that, and so all he has to do, very importantly, all he has to do is order all of the people who are under UFO non-disclosure security agreements to release them from that security agreement, so then they can come before Congress and tell Congress what the information is that they've got. That's the next step. that has to be focused on, because it's not at all clear that the most responsible thing to have happen is have Donald Trump get all the information and decide to do whatever it is he wants with it. Okay? That Congress should be involved. These are the elected representatives. Okay? And the American people should be involved. You heard Lou Elizondo lay out the three.
So there we go. That's the part. Was Danny Sheehan saying that Donald Trump needs to release, right, these clearances. That's the best thing Donald Trump can do as president. Executive order, release these people so that they can talk about these things. There we go. That is a path forward. Will that be pursued? No one's really talking about that. I hope more people talk about that because I like that idea and it makes sense, right? That's how we can get to this point, right? Anyone's, Lou Elizondo, who all these people are, can go and just say, yeah, this is who's keeping me from talking. Boom, you're released. You can talk now. Go ahead. What do you got to say? Where's the stuff? Where's the proof? Where's the evidence? So that phrase, I can't talk about it, or I can't, I'll tell you in a skiff or what, that will go away. It doesn't need to happen publicly. You need to happen behind closed doors. But that is key. Can Donald Trump just release them? That's it. So, will that happen? I don't know. Right. But I'm going to give it a chance. We're going to see if that's what's pursued, right? If that's what's pushed. Because if hearings just keep happening and people just say, I can't talk about it. If you can't talk about the details, but all you can do is just say the claim, which, by the way, makes, in my head, still doesn't make any sense how you can't release classified information, but you can come and say the government has these UAP programs, crash retrieval, all these things. But you can't say, right? Like, wouldn't that have been written into the NDA? Like, you can't even say anything. But they're like, well, you can say a few things, just don't give these details. Like, it kind of doesn't make sense, right? So, whatever. I don't know if I'll ever understand that aspect to it, but regardless, there's a path there, right? So, look, I'm going to get to a few super chats here, and then I'm going to jump into Immaculate Constellation. Let's do it. Stephen Wall, clearly orchestrated approach towards disclosure. Thank you, Stephen. Monkey Boy says, look at you pulling me back in and giving me hope. That's right, Monkey Boy. Let's go, baby. There's always something to grab onto. But it doesn't mean you forget the past either, right? We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can be, you can, whatever you want. You can be equally disappointed in the hearing, still be hopeful for what's to come. Let's learn from our losses. All right. Someone gave a great sports analogy in our open mic yesterday, right? Like, you learn the most from your losses, right? But then I piped in, of course, and I added a caveat to that. Only if you recognize it as a loss, right? Because sometimes sports teams or, right, a fighter or something, right? Like an athlete is like, I didn't lose. It was the refs. It was this. It was that. It was something else, You don't really learn from that, do you? Right? So it depends how seriously they take it, right? If they see it as a loss or see it as something we need to improve upon, then yes. If not, if it's just, this was a win, then maybe you won't learn from it, right? So I think you can have both. Rick Roberts, thank you so much, Rick. I think next round they need to call in non-government officials who are not bound by NDAs, like Chris Bledsoe, Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp, Ross Coulthard, I'm assuming, James Fox, Dan Farah, make Ross tell us where the UFO is buried. I mean, they had Schellenberger there, but again, he doesn't want to give up his sources, right? So it's kind of, they'll do the same thing, right? They'll all just say, I can't give up my sources. Now, Chris Bledsoe is different, right? He's coming with a personal experience. And I think to some extent it would be good to hear just personal experiences like that to some extent. You know, I'd be willing to hear that argument for sure. All right, guys, it's time. Let's jump in to Immaculate Constellation. Now, one thing I want to clear up is something that was said. Let me bring this up here. By Jeremy Corbell. He put out a tweet after this hearing that says, "Hey, Nancy Bass, you said 12 pages. There are only 11 pages here on the record. What was the 12th page, the missing page?" Well, I did a little digging into that. And I'm going to show you. Because when you go to the document they released, which is right here, right? What does it say at the top? 1 of 11. Oh, shit. Okay, there are 11. And she does say 12. That is true. But there's another document, a different part, like same document got released that did have 12, right? And I'm going to show you, I did a screen recording of it to show you why there was 12 documents initially. Boom, right there. There was like a blank page at the end, so it made it 12 pages long. That's all it is. So there you go. That's the big mystery. There wasn't some secret document that didn't get released, which is interesting. Maybe Jeremy knows something I don't know. But it seems like just a simple mistake. Literally, it was just a blank page at the end that was 12. Now, are people in the community going to say that got covered up with something? I mean, they released a whole report. I don't know what exactly they would have left out. So I think it was just a innocent mistake there. But regardless, let's get to this report. Now, I put the whole report, which was, again, 11 pages, into AI to get sort of a summary of everything. All right. Now, you can go read the whole full report yourself, and we are going to dig into some different parts of it. Right. But I thought this was interesting, right, to give us an idea, summary of what was in this report, right? So it says the document you've provided outlines a detailed investigation into unidentified anomalous phenomena, technologies of unknown origin, TUO. That's a new acronym I had not heard before, right? TUO, which makes me think John Greenwald Jr. needs to be submitting for that, right? Technologies of unknown origin. And non-human intelligence, NHI, by elements within the U.S. government, right? Here's a summary based on the structure and content of the report. Background and context. The investigation was conducted in response to perceived threats to national security and public safety, as mandated by recent legislation. So this is interesting. It's saying, like, the reason this report came out is because of that legislation that was passed before, right, last year. That's why this whistleblower report came out, which is interesting. Why does it need to be a whistleblower? It's just part of the investigation that was mandated. It highlights a significant issue where the U.S. executive branch has allegedly kept information from Congress, suggesting a longstanding lack of oversight on these matters. Immaculate Constellation Program. This program is described as an unacknowledged special access program, USAP, focused on gathering intelligence on UAP and ARV, alien reproduction vehicles. That's what that A means. They put reproduction vehicles for RVs, but that's what that A stands for there. So that's interesting. It involves multiple intelligence gathering methods and indicates a high level of compartmentalization within the U.S. government related to UAP. So again, they're saying that Immaculate Constellation is gathering intelligence on, right, UAPs, but also ARVs, stuff we've reverse engineered. So some of these UFOs are ours, reverse engineered from alien technology. That's the implication here. Imagery intelligence. The report mentions various instances where UAPs were captured by military sensors in different forms, including high-speed orbs, large disk, and triangles observed over strategic locations worldwide. This suggests a global operation to monitor and understand these phenomena. Human intelligence reporting. Over 400 reports from military personnel were reviewed detailing encounters with UAPs of various shapes. These reports often describe phenomena that defy conventional explanations, with encounters ranging from close proximity observations to high-speed chases. Bureaucratic records. There are allegations of discrepancies in the Department of Defense's interactions with Congress, with claims of misinformation or withholding information about UAP-related programs, which raises concerns about transparency and oversight. Historical records. References to declassified or restricted documents like the 1978 NSA report indicate that U.S. intelligence has long been interested in the implications of UAP, including their potential effects on human biology and psychology. Signals intelligence. While specifics are not detailed due to sensitivity, the report suggests that foreign intelligence entities are also aware of UAP activities, treating them as potential security threats and engaging in similar surveillance and countermeasures. So other countries are dealing with the same issues. Sensitive sources. This section hints at confidential verbal communications or testimonies, suggesting insider knowledge that might not be documented elsewhere. There is it's been said before that there is sort of a verbal, oral tradition of handing down this information through the decades, meaning it's not written down. And that has always been a red flag to me, right? So that it can be kept secret, right? It's not written down. I don't know. Conclusion. The report concludes by advocating for official disclosure of UAP and NHI, arguing that the public has a right to know about these phenomena. It calls for transparency over secrecy, warning against the risk of authoritarian responses to the issue. This investigation, if accurate, implies a significant hidden aspect of U.S. military and intelligence operations concerning extraterrestrial or highly advanced phenomena, with implications for national security, scientific research, and public policy. However, without the original document or official confirmation, these details should be treated with caution as they represent allegations of secretive government operations. So that's the AI warning us to be careful. So that's interesting. All right, let's get to this report here, because there is something interesting about this. A few different parts that I found quite fascinating with this document. All right. One is, this is a little different. Let's bring it up. Let's go in further. Yeah. This document is a result of a multi-year internal investigation into the subject of unidentified anomalous phenomena. Well, that's interesting. So I thought it came from the legislation. But either way, let's get down to another part that I want to show y'all. Here we go. common UAP UFO shapes observed in defense, right? From 1991 to 2022, the most common UAP shapes reported in the data set. So Immaculate Constellation has been around a long time, right? Spheres or orbs, discs or saucers, oval or tic-tacs, triangle, boomerang or arrowhead, irregular or organic, something like the jellyfish or something along those lines, right? And apparently most sightings fall under one of these categories, which is interesting. And you heard Michael Schellenberger state that before, like the marriage of some of these sightings all kind of convening, right? It's not like every person who's ever had a sighting saw something completely different, right? There is like a small range of different shapes and objects that people keep seeing, whatever that means, which is interesting. And if you, in the document, they go through all the different, size, speed, signatures, colors, surface details, behaviors, atmospheric phenomena, biological effects from dealing with these different, shapes, which is great, right? Something to dig in. There's a lot here, y'all. So I recommend diving deep into that part of it, which I found quite fascinating. Now, these are different sightings, right? Encounters that took place, right? Let's go over these because there's 3 of them. All right. And Schellenberger kind of testified to them briefly, but we're going to dive into the details here. All right. Let's make sure everybody can see that properly. Yeah, cool. And there's one more part of this that I'm going to share at the end here, which blows my mind. Okay, I find this so fascinating, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But let's get through these sightings first. Close encounter. Flight deck personnel. While on active duty in the Pacific, flight deck personnel working night duty experienced a close encounter with a spherical UAP of medium to large size. On-duty flight deck crew observed a small orange-red sphere maneuvering at high altitude above the CVN, right, or this aircraft carrier. Shortly after first observation, the UAP rapidly descended from high altitude to a position directly above the flight deck of this, aircraft carrier, right? Height approximately 100 to 200 yards. The UAP maintained altitude and matched speed with the underway carrier for an uncertain period. Observing personnel reported altered perceptions of time during the close encounter. The UAPs appeared to emit a soft orange-red light, which bizarrely did not, I think is what they meant to put, did not illuminate the ocean or the flight deck of the carrier, despite the visual appearance of intense luminosity. That is definitely interesting, right? It's not giving off, it's like a vampire that doesn't give off a reflection. How's that possible? The surface of the UAP was observed to be dynamic, roiling like the surface of the sun. Where have you heard that before? Many times. I've heard that many times, and that is interesting. Many, many times, right? Like the ship was alive. Think of like lava, right? That kind of look to it. That's what I've heard described. The UAP took no reported actions during the encounter, only maintaining a close-in proximity to the carrier. After an uncertain period, the UAP suddenly shot into the air, disappearing at a point high above the carrier. Observing personnel felt as if they snapped out of a trance and sense a profound unease. The incident report concludes with noting that the carrier had not responded in any way to what was perceived as a hostile interception by the UAP. All right, now this story is crazy. All right. Metallic orbs intercept F-22. While performing a routine airspace surveillance and control mission in the Eastern Air Defense Sector, an F-22 fighter observed multiple UAP contacts at mission altitude. Moving to intercept, the F-22 pilot noted multiple metallic orbs slightly smaller than a sedan, hovering in place. What does that sound like? Just going to say it. Sounds like the MH370 videos, man. That's interesting. Just saying, that's interesting. Right. Upon vectoring towards the UAPs, a small formation of the metallic orbs accelerated at rapid speed towards the F-22, which was unable to establish radar locks on the presumed hostile UAPs. The F-22 broke trajectory and attempted to evade, but was intercepted and boxed in by approximately 3 to 6 UAPs. One UAP maneuvered in proximity less than 12 meters. Okay, that's 36 feet roughly, right? To the area directly starboard of the cockpit. There, the UAP established a rigid spatial relationship with the F-22. That's an interesting phraseology, if you will, to use there. Rigid spatial relationship, right? I'm going to start using that. I feel like that's an interesting phrase. Maintaining its exact position and orientation parallel with the F-22's cockpit despite multiple evasive rolls and maneuvers. So it's staying with it even while the ship is doing all kinds of things to evade it, right? It's like if you're in a park and a bee comes at, nothing you can do. The bee is still there. You know what I mean? It's one of those scenarios. Surrounded by the presumed hostile UAPs, the F-22 was forced out of the mission area under the escort of the UAP formation. I mean, these are official sightings, y'all, from military personnel, allegedly, right? This document, even though it was entered into the record, I think that's something to keep in mind. Even though the document was entered into the record, it does not mean that it's true. Just means it was entered into the record, right? There's not been anything shown to prove that anything in this document is true and that the document is true other than just saying it is. That's it. Take that for whatever you mean. Perimeter of sensitive facility breached by UAP. At a military airfield located on the eastern seaboard, ground personnel reported a lengthy, low-altitude intrusion late at night by a small spherical UAP. The UAP displayed visual signature management, appearing as a blurry sphere around which light was distorted or bent. This effect emanated outward from the central sphere, giving the appearance of a heat haze or misty volume of distorted light, right? Think of it like, if you have a chandelier, you've got a light on your ceiling, right? Sometimes they have that white, like glass thing over it, right? And diffuses the light. Think of something like that, like a diffused light, if you will. The UAP, ground personnel reported eye strain, headaches, and a feeling of unease or dread while observing this dark sphere. That's a common thing, right? These things are giving off some sort of energy that puts you off. The UAP was first observed while slowly crossing the runway, moving in the direction of a sensitive area. Once across, the UAP hovered above a grouping of ground equipment before floating further towards a building within the sensitive area. The UAP then floated the building before suddenly disappearing. Ground personnel were uncertain of the length of the encounter, but estimated their observation lasted 10 to 15 minutes. So that is interesting, right? Now let's get to the part that I find absolutely fascinating from this. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to play something for y'all. Before I show it to y'all, I'm going to play something first, and then we'll go back to that. Stay with me. All right, this is from the hearing. This is a question to Luis Elizondo. Let's play it, and then we'll come back.
Elizondo, were you read into the Immaculate Constellation program?
Ma'am, I would not be authorized to confirm nor deny the existence of any ongoing or past program, especially as it relates to a special access program, either by name or trigraph.
Okay. And then does the U.S. government or private contractors, do they work with other foreign countries, China, for example, to exchange data, quote, from a source, that intelligence data about UAP?
Let me see if I can answer that a little bit more generally, ma'am, if I may. We do have foreign material exploitation programs. That is something that is widely known, and that term itself is unclassified. How exactly that works becomes a bit sensitive. A discussion we could certainly have in a closed session if you like. We do work with international partners and allies quite often, not just in military exercises and workups, but in other intelligence efforts as well.
In terms of material that's given to private contractors, is certain material given to certain contractors because of their experience? So, for example, if it's related to submerged and undersea propulsion, would it go to a general contractor like General Dynamics?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely correct. Different contractors have different levels of expertise.
What's Lockheed's expertise?
Aerospace, ma'am.
In the UAP space, that's all that they wouldn't do submerged.
No, I didn't say that, ma'am.
Okay.
Lockheed Martin and others do quite a bit of work both in our atmosphere, in space, and even underwater. There are certain efforts to. It's a tough question you're asking. You put me on the spot here.
I'm looking for the answer.
Yes, ma'am. No, they are involved in a lot. I would rather let Lockheed Martin explain the different domains that they are involved with. Probably am not authorized to discuss that, but they are involved in a lot of different areas and domains.
Admiral, flight safety risks for our pilots, based on what you've experienced and seen in your career.
They're extensive, and the one exercise I referred to where I received the email that was then deleted was the pilots, and this is worth bringing out. There are debunkers out there who have said the Go Fast video was just a balloon. That was only one video that was released. There were dozens of these encounters that pilots, friends of Ryan Graves, who's in this room right here, witnessed. And
all right, that's not the part. I'm going to skip ahead. I'm trying to. Do I not have this?
Or how do we get more whistleblowers to come forward?
Oh man, let me see.
I can't encourage whistleblowing. Is very important
to come forward.
Well, this hearing is very important, and obviously, I can't encourage whistleblowers to obtain information, but I can guarantee that I will protect them and go to prison to protect their identities if they come to me.
Yes, sir. Okay, my last question. The first hearing we had on this, I'd never been briefed on UAPs or what they were, biologics.
All right. I don't know where it is, the part, but basically, Lou Elizondo is asked if he read Michael Schellenberger's article about Immaculate Constellation, and he says no. He says he has not read that. I'm absolutely certain. So otherwise, I'd look for the clip here. Where exactly that is. I thought I had it pulled up, but I was wrong. So I don't want to waste any time here on the live stream looking that up. But he does say no, okay, specifically, that he has not read that article, right? Kind of implying he doesn't know anything about it. But what's interesting is in this report, Elizondo is named multiple times. And I'll show you. So right here, separately, additional internal records confirm the claims of Mr. Lou Elizondo regarding ATIP OSEP's missions, activities, and findings. Additional documents support the exceptional character and credibility of Mr. Elizondo. These non-public documents include letters of commendation, service award nominations, performance promotion reviews, archive email chains, and ATIP OSEP program briefings, which directly corroborate the public statements of Mr. Elizondo. These records also provide additional insight into the activities of ATIP OSEP, the evolution of the program's findings, and its interactions with senior DoD leadership. Now, if you kind of go through this whole thing, you start to find, well, nobody's really named except Elizondo. Why is that? I find that strange. Just saying. That's strange. And Lou Elizondo saying, like, I didn't, oh my God, I wasn't showing that the whole time, was I? My bad, y'all. Okay, right here. Boom, in the middle. My bad, y'all. Right there in the middle, what I just read. You can see Mr. Elizondo, right? Everything I just read, all right here. Okay, on page 10. And again, no one else is really like this. Is just strange. Found that strange. And that Elizondo's like, oh, I don't know anything about that. I didn't read that article. Well, what? He wouldn't have followed that information about Immaculate Constellation and everything. So I don't know if there's something more there, or he's being coy for a reason, or he was involved and can't say anything. But I find that kind of interesting. I think an interesting question from Mace to Schellenberger would have been, are any of the people up here testifying with you one of your sources? Is any one of your sources, Schellenberger, in this room today? Right. And or, you know what I mean? I would have asked that. So that's interesting. I don't know. I just find that interesting. I don't know what it means. But why is Lou Elizondo? Why are they like? It's such a like, hey, Lou, everything's great with Lou Elizondo confirming his claims. Like, what do you mean confirming claims regarding ATIP OSAP's mission? I mean, it's clearly been documented that ATIP and OSAP were different things, different programs. OSAP had money, ATIP did not. Like, what they're putting it together like it's some same thing or something. I don't know. I just find this so strange. And I see it a little bit as a red flag, I guess. But again, what do I know? I'm a nobody. You know what I mean? I'm just following along like you guys are. But I do find that strange because I don't know what it means. But one thing at the bottom of this thing is also interesting. They left a little Latin sign off, right? Right here at the bottom. You see that? I will not even pretend to say that. But I looked it up. Let's see what it means. Knowledge tested by fire, truth by faith. If you remember yesterday in the hearing, and I showed it afterwards, one of the Congress members brought up Kuhnian science. Right, and I looked that up. It comes from a gentleman named Thomas Kuhn, right? And he mentioned someone else, right, as well, and another philosopher of science, if you will, right? And it's kind of interesting that it kind of brings his idea, Kuhnian science, into this. Like that's this phrase here kind of reflects that, which is interesting, especially the knowledge tested by fire part. Truth by faith is interesting. Truth by faith, that I don't like. Right? Truth by faith. We got to take a leap of faith for this. I don't know. Maybe or faith in the truth. I don't know. You know, I don't speak Latin. I don't know. Find that interesting. Is there more to it? I mean, you're signing off on this official whistleblower report with that, right? And that's interesting to me. All right, one last thing here. Section 7, sensitive sources, from mouth to ear. I think they just described the entire UFO topic. Some proof would have been nice, but we are where we are. We are where we are. All right, guys. All right, let's go to some chat here and just kind of hang out for a little bit. But that's pretty much it of my presentation, if you will, and review of this. where we're at. Stephen Wall says, orchestrated, can't change culture overnight. No better way to start the disclosure process than by using intelligence officers. I get it. Notice Trump showed up at White House right before hearing. Stephen Wall. Well, let's not conflate the two, right, guys? We can't find conspiracies in every single thing that happens. Trump was there to meet with Biden, which was set up beforehand. Are more people going to read into that? Sure. But in fact, people were being pulled away from the hearing yesterday to go do other things. So I don't really see that as the reason, if you know what I'm saying. But how crazy would it have been if Trump showed up to the hearing, right? Like, hey guys, I'm going to be president soon. I just thought I'd come in and see what's going on. What's up, Burchett? This is the greatest hearing ever. I'll do a horrible Trump impression. All right, guys. Yeah, throw your questions in all caps or comments that you think the rest of the vetter audience would like to see. Put them in all caps, y'all. And I will get to them. Yeah, I mean, I'm still reeling from the hearing, y'all, to be honest with you. And I'm looking forward to the one next week, right? We're boom, back to back here. We'll get to that one. And I'm curious what those UAP materials that Ron James brings to Gillibrand and her office and what they do with that. That's also going to give me a good indication of what we're dealing with here. Are they just going to brush that off, or are they going to take that more seriously? And how does Ron James going to present it to her, right? That will also matter, I'm sure. Heiser says that was Trump and Arnold at once. I think you're right, Heiser. That was my Trump and Arnold impression at once. God, is horrible. He's a great guy to. Those are both good impressions. Trump impressions are great, and Arnold impressions are great. Tupa says, could the reporting be any more circular? That's the worry. That is the worry, for sure. 100%. And I think we have to keep our eye out for that. Now, Schellenberger claims that his information, his reporting on Immaculate Constellation is outside of circular reporting. But by saying that, he's admitting that that exists. He's admitting that there's a circle of knowledge being passed around, right? By saying, oh, no, I'm not a part of that. So you're admitting that that thing exists. Right, he's trying to separate it from it. But it is curious that Luis Elizondo would be mentioned in this thing. How could it not be a part of it? I don't know. It just dang it, pisses me off. Things just, I just get this weird feeling. I can't help it. It's just my gut, guys. I don't know what to do. I'm not saying anything definitively. I'm just saying it feels weird. And again, what's going to solve all this is let's get Trump to just release everybody and let's get them start talking. Let's bring stuff out. We're in it. And again, focusing on citizen journalism, citizen investigation into this topic, personal experiences, that sort of thing, right? Is also key. Thank you to Grycycle. Love it. Am I saying that right? Grycycle? I don't know. Oh, recycle? Is it like recycle? I don't know. Anyway, thank you. Terrence says, yo, that hearing is on every major news channel this morning. What can we do next to keep pushing? Much love, Patrick. I mean, again, that's if you're forced through the trees looking at it from one perspective, absolutely. It's the discussion is being opened up and talked about. I agree completely. And that is a positive. But something to also keep in mind is by doing that, you're going to bring more scrutiny. Did you notice all the newscasters asking, yeah, but what about evidence? And when is that going to come out? And aren't people going to be tired of these hearings if we just keep making claims with no evidence and keep saying, I can't talk about that? Right? That can only go on for so long. And, when you see a video has 100,000 views, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, people saw it, but they could be disappointed by what they saw. Right? So what's the temperature actually? of what people are seeing, right? And again, by bringing this topic out to more people, you're going to put it under more scrutiny. Can all of these stories that we've been told handle that scrutiny? It's the question you got to ask yourself. And at this point, my answer would be, if someone asked me, no, it cannot handle the scrutiny at all. That's like trying to stand on a piece of toilet paper, you know, or use that as support, right? You're going to fall right through that thing. That was a horrible example. I'm so sorry. No. But bringing forward evidence, people being released from their whatever they signed or this or that, right? Like Lou Elizondo stated he signed something a couple of years ago. He's not allowed to talk about whatever. Like, what? Let's get him released from all of these things. And Trump could do that. Apparently. I'm not a lawyer. That's what Danny Sheehan is saying. I'm in. Let's go. Release him and let's talk. And, you know, Ned, Patrick, do you think the Senate hearing will be any better? It could be. Yeah. I mean, it will be something for sure. They're having a private closed one and then moving into open. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. And again, if I want to see what happens with these materials that Gillibrand's office gets from Ron James, what are they going to do with something like that? Are they going to, again, brush it off, take it seriously? I don't know. But if Ron can get meetings with them, then you would hope that they would take him seriously, right? And be like, okay, let's see what you got. Let's look at it. Let's analyze it. And what more can we ask? That's something. I want to see more of that, right? It'd be great if James Fox also and all these people reporting Jeremy, hopefully they're taking evidence, saying, okay, here you go. So I appreciate that hustle. And yeah, I do look forward to the other hearing. The NASA guy was an empty jacket. Why was he even there? You know, I get it. We're talking about Mike Gold there. Maybe there was more he wanted to say and he didn't. I think he's just advocating for transparency, which is nice, but I'm not sure that needed to be like, yeah, why was he there? Like, he could have said that on a news show or something, you know, like, I'm not sure what testifying and putting that on the record actually meant. And maybe I'm missing the point. But it's not like anything he had to say needed to go on the record and he needed to, you know, testify under oath to any of that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. The admittance of, or the admission, I should say, and admittance on the record of that NASA has a database of information that isn't released. That was interesting. Maybe that was public already, but I'm not sure I knew that. Dominoes were under that UFO in that pic, right? I don't know what that means. Do you think that what happened yesterday will impact the hearing scheduled for next week? Not at all. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. It will impact what they talk about, for sure. I think so. They would have to. They'd have to bring up some questions. Hey, last week in the House, so-and-so testified. What do you think to that? I can't imagine they won't ask those questions. So, yeah, it will. But I guess, you know, could it like impact them not having anything? I don't think anything like that. But yeah, the questions they'll ask, yeah, I hope so. They need to. I will be extremely disappointed if they do not address anything that was just mentioned in yesterday's hearing. That won't make any sense, will it? If they do that, that just won't make any sense at all. Mike Gold, UAPs could be from AI. Well, who created the AI? Duh. Even if the creators are long gone. Well, that's not true. Toxic. Duh. Let's throw that duh back at you. Take that a step further. Who's to say that artificial intelligence isn't naturally come into fruition? Right? He calls it artificial intelligence because that's what we call it, right? Because we create that intelligence. But who's to say that mechanical intelligence doesn't naturally occur somewhere else in the universe. We have no idea about the universe entirely, right? So that's all I would say to that. Pull back further. I hope what I said made sense. But with your point, I am glad that he brought up AI and non-biological intelligence, or as Tim Gallaudet put it, NHHI. He added an extra H for non-human higher intelligence. Give us a scarf flick over the shoulder. Is that it? Is that what y'all want? I'll be starting an OnlyFans, y'all. Just me in a scarf. Kidding. Look, it's cold here today. Probably don't need the scarf right now, but whatever. It's on. I'm just leaving it. But yeah, I was freezing this morning, and I'm a Texan, y'all. I don't like the cold. Okay. Do you think that what happened yesterday? Oh, you already asked me that. Do you put it past the DoD military industrial complex to start World War III if the Middle East to kill disclosure? I do not think that's a possibility at all. That's my opinion. I think the funniest part was at the Congressional oath ceremony when Miss Mace asked them to raise their hands and Mr. Gold did the Vulcan salute, but no one seemed to notice. I noticed that, and you're right. That was funny. Yeah, because he was like, what is it? Is that it? Yeah, he did that. He raised his hand. Honestly, they were all like, at first they were like with their hands up, they were doing the Pledge of Allegiance. And then they looked over at Tim Gallaudet and Lou Elizondo, who are government official, like they've done this before. They knew to put their hand up. So, but they both had it, and then they were like, oh. And yeah, Mike Gold did that. He has spoken about a Star Trek world. So clearly a fan. Ned says, what's the Pentagon's next move? Great question. I would like to know that as well. Great question. And how many people within the Pentagon? There's probably several different moves, right? Not just one, like the Pentagon is this one entity that moves together. No, it'd be different things happening. And I'm with you. What is the next move? Because they are still denying the existence of ET and all this stuff, officially. No question. Just want to say I'm so happy this channel exists, and thank you to Patrick for your work in uniting us veterans day after day. Absolutely, Stephen. It's my pleasure, man. Look, no matter what happens in this topic, every day, Vetted is here, baby. And we can all get together, have discussions. There'll be ups, there'll be downs, but the good news, we'll go through it together. Because I ain't going nowhere, y'all. I'm in it. And I'm not going anywhere. Russ says, John Ratcliffe, as new head of CIA, is a person who could make it all happen. I agree. Look, there's some very interesting decisions being made by Trump from people who lean towards UAP transparency. Now, do I think Trump's picking him specifically for that? I do not. That is being thrown around, but I do not think that at all. I just think it just so happens, which is great. I'm with it. Again, Trump will hold the keys, like Danny Sheehan said, to release these people so that they can start talking. And I think that's a great idea. I never thought of that, honestly. That's the first time I'd heard that personally. And I totally agree. So I'm going to support Danny on that and what they're doing. I think the main point that should be focused on is that all of the taxpayer money missing and unaccounted for that is paid for this. Sure. And I think a lot of people are going down that road. Follow the money, as they say. Patrick Taylor says, full disclosure is here. Okay. Love your optimism, man. I disagree, but I love your optimism. Leanne, welcome, Leanne. Shout out to Leanne here. We need to follow up with Congress. Grush gave info, names, and places in a skiff, but they followed through. We can continue with hearings, but Congress needs to follow up on the info provided. Could not agree more, Leanne. I state that all the time. I couldn't agree more. We can't forget about the candles we light, y'all. Right? We've got to go back as well and follow up on these claims, right? What's going to happen with everything? Elizondo, Schellenberger, right? Are they going to look? Okay, they put Immaculate Constellation to the record. Now what? Right? What about David Grush's entire investigation that laid out this whole thing from the beginning? Places, well, where to go? None of that was brought up in this hearing. No follow-up to what David Grush said. So, that's why Burchett just says, like, these are bogus. These hearings are bogus. So, well put, Leanne. Is it weird that Lou is basically a counterintelligence agent? Look, I'm not a government official. I don't know anything, but it seems like a red flag for sure. I don't know. Counter intel. I mean, it's like, But don't you think, I mean, just to play devil's advocate to even my own thoughts, because I'm the only one here, it's also weird that he would be open about that and also try to deceive. That makes sense, right? It's like, you would think they would hide that fact about him if he was actually out trying to do something, whatever. Considering Gold's career history, do you think he knew things about the Lockheed Martin material transfer failed in the 90s? As far as I know, it was in the early 2000s, Rhett, but maybe there's something else to that. Yeah, I was hoping they would ask about that. Covered that extensively, and I agree. I wish they would have. I wish they would have asked that. Patrick, here's super chat, but I can't talk about what makes it super. It's classified. Love it. Absolutely. That is funny. Well, I can't tell you why I'm so grateful for the super chat, because it's classified. Khan, our veteran of the month, says Gates is district attorney, Ratcliffe is CIA director, noticing a very strong wall, quote, against disinfo, no pun intended. Hee. Interesting. Yeah, baby. Let's go. Enough. We need transparency. As Nancy Mace put it, this administration will be the most transparent in U.S. history. I hope so, because Republicans hold the House, the Senate, and the White House, right? So something doesn't happen, there's really no one to turn and blame. Grelch was disappointed Lou wasn't asked about orbs he sees, and Gold wasn't asked about his time working for Bigelow. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. I'm disappointed that one of the first question wasn't, have you had a personal experience with UAP? Right? To sort of judge where they're coming from. You know what I mean? You want to know, and they didn't, and I agree. Do you know that Lou will be in Dallas next week at ATT PAC? I don't know what that means. He'll be in Dallas. Cool. Yeah, he's got some event or something. I'll throw up Heisers here, even though it's not in all caps, Heiser. Trying to align NHI motives and knowledge of technology and the universe with our own is a mistake, in my opinion. I hear what you're saying, Heiser. I will respectfully disagree. I'll tell you why. We have no choice. Right? What else are we going to do? How, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? We have no choice. We have no other reference except ourselves, humans. So of course, everything will go through the human filter. It's kind of impossible not to. Right? It's like trying to tell a human, stop being human. What do I do? How do I stop being human? You can't. There's no way for us not to. And in fact, it would be wise if we did it this way, because that doesn't mean we can't consider all the other options, but we got to start somewhere. It would make sense to use our own experience to try to help understand. That makes actually the most sense, right? Because if we're just getting philosophical here, even this comment like this, which I understand where it comes from, I totally get it. I think more it may mean don't dismiss things because that I can agree with. But even this comment is human, right? Like even your comment is aligning with human mode, our own, right? Does it make sense? Like I hope I'm making sense there. And maybe I'm not. But I hear your sentiment for sure. See, this is why I love the mods here on Vetted, man. Everyone's got different opinions. Everyone brings something else to think about. And I love that. We all think differently, right? And no one's opinion is an endorsement of another, right? Like if Heiser says something doesn't mean all the mods agree with it, or another mod says something doesn't mean Heiser and the rest of the mods agree with it, or vice versa, or me, or anything I say. That doesn't mean they agree with everything else. I like it this way. I like all the different perspectives. I like all the different opinions. And, you know, we should never feel like we're in an echo chamber. I like having different perspectives around. Keeps me thinking about things, me personally. And I like that. I like challenging my own thoughts and beliefs all the time. Right? Because I could be wrong. I could be right. I don't know. Right? But I like challenging. And I'm happy to admit if I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong about a lot of this stuff. I hope we do have a crashed UFO and bodies, and the universe is teeming with life, and there is a Star Trek world out there. Are you kidding me? Hello? I want to believe, but remember, I don't want to be deceived. But yeah, I want to believe. Of course. Man, I can't. And when that reality shift happens for me and more publicly, like I look forward to that world. I really do. What do you think of the non-oxygen life comment? I don't know what that means, Melissa. Non-oxygen life comment. Patrick says, every time someone types Patrick's name, I think they're talking to me. They are. They are. You can start answering for me. Go ahead. Oh my gosh. Am I that behind on the comments here? I'm getting to the OnlyFans thing. Oh man. All right. Let me jump down, y'all. Catch up a little bit. Why wasn't the Langley incident drilled down upon more? How is that something that doesn't freak Congress out? I agree. That's like legitimate data, something happening currently over our military airspace. We need to know. Clearly something is going on. I don't doubt that. And I think a lot of people in this community don't doubt that. The question is, some of us think, some people think they already know what that thing is. Whereas other people are like, something's going on, but I don't know what it is. All right, if that makes sense. Ali says, do we know who the guy in the front row with the tatted up arms is? Well, the guy sitting next to Jeremy Corbell, I don't know. I mean, it must be a friend of his, but no, I'm not sure who that was. Chris Bledsoe was in the room. He should have had a chair at the table. Potentially. But I'm okay with government officials going up to testify. I just want to see the scientists and engineers who've been working in these programs. And again, if they can be released from their contracts, we can get them in there. Ideally, right? That's how that would work. Proof is for the normies. We already know aliens and UFOs exist. Well, you use the word we. And I appreciate your sentiment, Apocalypse Promotions, but nobody speaks for me, right? And it's okay to say, I know aliens exist, but you don't need to speak for everybody else, right? That seems a little unfair for everybody. And for me, proof is absolutely necessary. I'm just saying. I think that's a choice everyone should get to make on their own. But I get it. There's a lot of people that believe in this that need other people to believe in it so that theirs feels stronger or something, or it makes me think they don't actually believe in it. That makes sense because they fight so hard for other people to believe it too. Right. Now, you could argue, oh, well, someone who believes in it just wants other people to believe in it because it's so fascinating. I get that. I understand that. But it becomes very forceful or putting down people who don't agree with how you think about this topic, right? Again, I don't judge my friends on what they think about UFOs and aliens. I don't care. They can think whatever they want. It's not how I judge the people I want to be around. A spoon of ocean water. Nope, sharks aren't real. UAP are real. We just need a bigger spoon. Well, UAP doesn't mean anything. It just means unidentified anomalous phenomena. And of course, that exists throughout the entire universe, right? I think what we more mean is, craft built by someone, not humans, right? Somewhere else, or maybe a similar origin. They're crypto-terrestrials or other dimension or time travelers or from another time and space, in the universe. That is what we don't know. In my opinion, I have not seen that yet. You may have. Okay, cool. No problem. But yeah, I agree. We have not studied anything in the universe. I mean, mathematically speaking, we don't know anything. All right, guys, I'm going to go one more question. And this will be the last one here, I think. Oh, well, no, I got one more after this. One more super chat. All right, last question. Well, second to last here. What question would you ask them to get us the truth? Thanks, vetted mods and community. Got to get back to work. What would you ask them to get us the truth? That's a great question. I don't know if I can answer that. I don't know if there's one question I would ask. And maybe that's the problem. And we don't know the right questions to ask. And it's this is getting me thinking. So this is a great question. I like questions that make me think like this. It's like kind of what Danny Sheehan's saying, right? Like they're just going to say all day long, can't talk about it, can't talk about it, can't talk about it. So we got to solve that problem first and then start asking the right questions. We got to solve the problem of the answers they can give before we can ask the right questions. Because otherwise we're just going to get nowhere. So it's a great point to bring up. Great point. All right, last one. I think it's dumb that people believe Rick Doty over Lou. I don't believe Doty if he said he has a mustache. Well, can't say I disagree with that. Definitely do not believe Rick Doty, right? And you got to ask yourself this question. Are you telling me that the government only had Rick Doty give out false information about UFOs? He's the only one? That's impossible. That means there's a lot of Rick Dotys out there. We just don't know who they are. All right, guys. That is it. I'm going to be heading to the Discord after party for a little bit to hang out. So feel free to join. There's a link in the description. It's free to join and come hang out with us. We do that every day after every video. And come jump on the mic and let's talk. Let's just be respectful, y'all. All right. Thank y'all so much for hanging out. This was awesome. Look forward to the rest of the videos coming out. And don't forget, I will be live streaming the next hearing next week. So if you're not subscribed already, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when we go live for that. But of course, I put out a video every day, y'all. So I'll have one out tomorrow. And thanks for hanging out, y'all. Love y'all so much, betters. We'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. Remember, every day is a gift, y'all.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through eyes covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.